Is Webflow the best WordPress alternative in 2025? WordPress has been the dominant content management system, or CMS, for over a decade, but its main corporate sponsor recently withdrew 98% of their contribution hours. So, you might be wondering, is WordPress still the right CMS for me, or is it time to switch? The biggest risk in switching to a new tool is when you put in weeks of work only to realize later in the process that it can't do something you absolutely need. Let's avoid that with a comprehensive comparison of WordPress versus Webflow, looking at 115 features across 19 categories. The big picture. WordPress began as a blogging tool, and it's really good at blogging. If you want more than that, you'll probably need to dip into its ecosystem. But that ecosystem of plugins and themes can enable your website to do virtually anything you can imagine. Webflow was founded in 2013 as an all-in-one service that includes the website builder and hosting. So if you build a Webflow website, in all likelihood, you're hosting it with Webflow. WordPress itself is free, though premium plugins and themes to add necessary functionality can start adding up quickly. Webflow has a free starter plan, where you can build 2 pages on a webflow.io domain. If you want to use your own domain or build more than 2 pages, they have plans at $14 a month, $23 and $39 a month. For larger sites, they also have enterprise plans. The pricing is not public, but social media posts that I've seen point toward annual costs in the mid 4 figures. W3 Tech's list of top content management systems has WordPress at number 1, powering 43.5% of the internet, and Webflow at number 7, powering 0.8% of the internet. But those numbers only tell part of the story. If you want to look at where the internet is going, look at marketing and web design agencies. I did an informal look through over 5,000 US agency websites. Roughly half use WordPress, but roughly 10 to 15% use Webflow. Based on what agencies are doing, I predict that Webflow will pass Joomla and Drupal to be a top 5 CMS fairly soon, and it could climb higher in the long term. Webflow and WordPress have 2 of the most enthusiastic and passionate user bases on the internet. They're both doing some things right. Which one is for you? For you to know, you need to know which can meet your website's core needs. That's the question we're answering here. A few notes before we dive in. WordPress doesn't have any publicity or media contact that I can find. Webflow does, and I contacted them with a full script to ask for comment a week ago. They have offered no comment as of the time of recording. Also, this is part of an ongoing series comparing WordPress to other content management systems. If you find this one useful, please check out the previous episode on Statamic and subscribe to catch future episodes. Let's compare the content management features of WordPress and Webflow. They can both schedule posts and pages in their core offering, but can you schedule edits to a post or page? You can't in WordPress core, but the Publish Press Revisions plugin adds this functionality for $69 a year. I've used this plugin before and it gets the job done well, but its user interface has a steeper than average learning curve. You can't do this in Webflow. You can manually save an edit as a draft and manually publish it, but there is no automated process. Now, the Schedule Flow plugin for Webflow offers a potential workaround to schedule publishing an entire site or a collection, which is similar to all posts in a custom post type. Its pricing is hidden to the public. Can you schedule edits to part of a post or page? You can't do this in Core. Block Visibility enables this in Gutenberg, and Bricks Builder does enable you to set a condition to display content if a certain date is reached. This isn't available in Webflow. Now, how about viewing a history of revisions and restoring a past version of a page? You can do this in WordPress, and Webflow is not available for individual pages. There is a site-wide revision history that can be restored on a site-wide basis, but not on an individual page basis. When you're managing larger sites especially, it's really handy to have custom content models like custom post types. In WordPress, there's an API in Core that helps you do this, but you don't really have this functionality to do it out of the box in Core. Plugins like Advanced Custom Fields, or ACF, or MetaBox add this functionality. ACF has a $49 a year pro version, but the free version will satisfy many use cases. On the other hand, Webflow offers this in Core. Webflow collections offer the ability to create different content model types. Each collection can have custom fields to define custom structures. Do you have user roles and permissions so that different users can do different things? Yes, in both. In Webflow, all customers can access three user types: Designer for full access, Editor, content edits only, and Commenter, which offers feedback only. Enterprise users have access to additional user types. How about an editorial workflow process so there can be a user type who can create content and submit it for another user to approve and publish? Yes, you can do this in WordPress. WordPress is built for this. It's really good for this. In Webflow, kinda. It is possible to set up a user with the ability to draft content without publishing it, but there isn't a built-in way to submit that draft for approval by another user type or another specific user. Moving on to media management. Suppose you want to organize your media library into folders. In WordPress, you can't do this in core, but Happy Files, which is a $59 one-time cost, adds this feature. On the other hand, in Webflow, you can do this in core. Now, some of you would prefer tags to folders to organize your media library. In WordPress, again, you can't do this in core, but there is a media library assistant plugin, which is free, which has this feature. In Webflow, it's not available. They have collections, which are similar to a custom post type, that can be managed by tags, but not individual assets or individual media items. Now, one of the biggest areas of media management has to do with performance. Can you automatically optimize images on upload, converting them to WebP or AVIF and compressing them? In WordPress, you can't do this in core. Short Pixel, which is $99.90 per year, offers this feature. On the other hand, Webflow offers this in core, both responsive images and image conversion. Now, can you batch optimize your old images, converting them to WebP or AVIF and compressing them? In WordPress, you can't do this in core. You can do it through Short Pixel. In Webflow, you can do it in core. Now, one really handy thing when you're managing a large website that's been going for a while is the ability to automatically replace one image with another in every instance where it's used across a website. In WordPress, you can't do this in core, but Short Pixel offers a free plugin, Enable Media Replace, that adds this feature. Webflow, on the other hand, you can do this in core. Adaptive images is where you automatically deliver correct image sizes for different screen sizes for better performance. In WordPress, you can't do this in core. However, Short Pixel offers an adaptive images plugin that adds this feature. Webflow has it in core. Moving on to forms. WordPress doesn't have a built-in default form builder in its core offering. Two good options for WordPress are Gravity Forms or WS Form. There are a few free plugin options, but they're limited enough that this is probably the number one most likely feature where even small WordPress sites will need a premium plugin. On the other hand, Webflow offers forms in core. How about forms with conditional logic? That's form fields that appear depending on something that happened in a previous form field. In WordPress, this is not available in core. However, this is all available through Gravity Forms or WS Form. Now, Webflow used to have this feature in Webflow Logic, but it is taking this feature away. They disabled making new forms with Webflow Logic on January 31st, 2025. All existing forms that have conditional logic will lose this functionality on June 27th, 2025. Now, there are several third-party add-ons for Webflow InputFlow and Flowform which add this functionality. They are both premium services whose pricing is not publicly visible. In Forms, can you integrate to automatically send entries to third-party email providers like MailChimp or Constant Contact? You can't do this in WordPress core. Both Gravity Forms and WS Form enable this. In Webflow, MailChimp offers a direct integration free with a MailChimp subscription. I've linked to that in the post that's in the show notes, which also has pricing and a lot of links. Webflow Forms can integrate with Zapier, which in turn integrates with many of the other leading third-party email providers. Can you integrate to automatically send entries to customer relationship management or CRM tools like Salesforce or HubSpot? Not in core WordPress, yes, through Gravity Forms and through WS Form. For Webflow, HubSpot offers a direct integration. Other CRM integrations are available with a few more steps through Zapier. Sometimes you want to have a payment form option that isn't maybe an e-commerce card. It's a form, but it has a payment option. Can you have a payment form that's integrated with PayPal? Not in core WordPress, but you can do it through Gravity Forms and WS Form. Webflow e-commerce functionality integrates with PayPal. However, its regular forms do not support making purchases through PayPal. Can you integrate payment forms with Stripe? Not in core WordPress. Gravity Forms and WS Form can both do this. Again, Webflow's e-commerce functionality integrates with Stripe. However, its regular forms do not support making purchases through Stripe. For complex forms, sometimes it's handy to split them into multiple pages. You can't do this in core WordPress. You can through Gravity Forms or WS Form. Again, in Webflow, you can't do this in core. Several third-party add-ons, including InputFlow and Flowform, add this functionality. They are both premium services whose pricing is not publicly visible. Some of the most complicated forms you can get are multi-step, multi-user, complex workflow forms. You can't do this in core. In WordPress, you can do it through Gravity Forms plus Gravity Flow, which is an additional $299 per year. A WS Form can't do this one. In Webflow, again, you can't do it in core, and a Webflow site that needs a form this complex would likely need to rely on an external form service like Jotflow or FormStack that supports being embedded on any site via iframe. Let's compare Webflow's and WordPress's design features. Do they offer a drag and drop page builder? WordPress, kinda. WordPress does have a page builder in core commonly known as Gutenberg, but its functionality is limited enough that a high percentage of WordPress-based sites use a more fully featured page builder. The most popular is Elementor, $84 a year. Two of the best are Bricks Builder, $79 a year, and the upcoming Etch. As far as Webflow, yes, not only does Webflow have a drag and drop page builder in its core offering, it's one of the best out there. It might be the most highly acclaimed page builder out there right now, and it's a fairly obvious point of inspiration for quite a number of other page builders. Now, do they offer a drag and drop page builder with a fully visual option where you can see what the page looks like as you build it? In WordPress, the answer is yes, kinda. Gutenberg's builder view is similar to, but not identical to, the end result. Elementor, Bricks, and Etch are all fully visual page builders. Meanwhile, Webflow and Core, yes, it has one of the best out there. Diving further into that page builder context, how about a drag and drop page builder that enables complex layouts and all CSS features? You can't do this in WordPress, in core. Gutenberg has enough limitations that users who need complex layouts usually end up using a page builder like Elementor, Bricks, or Etch, unless they want to do a considerable amount of custom development, and there definitely are a few hardy souls who do that. Webflow's in core, yeah, one of the best out there. The style panel has inputs for almost all CSS features, including transforms, filters, shadows, and z-index. Now, WordPress and Webflow, do they offer a CSS framework to set and later change CSS settings on a site-wide basis? No, but, and not in core WordPress, but in WordPress, Bricks Builder and Etch both integrate with automatic.css, which is $79 a year. Webflow has it in core. It can be really handy to have pre-built modules like accordions, heroes, news layouts, and image portfolios. There isn't much of this in WordPress core. Elementor has their own. Bricks and Etch have several options, one of which is frames. Webflow has basic pre-built modules in core, but users who want more pre-built modules can access premium libraries like Reloom, Flowbase, Untitled UI, and Landing Folio. A key element of design is fonts. Can you upload custom font files? Yes, you can in both WordPress and Webflow in core. Webflow accepts custom fonts in the TTF, OTF, WOFF, and WOFF2 formats, but not in the EOT and SVG formats. Another way to do it, can you add an external font via CSS font face declaration? In WordPress and Webflow, you can both do it in core. These days, a lot of designers like to work in Figma. How does Figma integrate with these two CMSs? In WordPress, there isn't a good integration right in core. However, there is Figma to WordPress, which is a $79 a year tool which integrates Figma designs with WordPress blocks. Frames for Figma integrates Figma designs into bricks and Etch. Webflow offers a free official Figma to Webflow plugin. It allows you to import your Figma designs into Webflow, preserving layers, typography styles, auto layout images and backgrounds, and shadows and borders. If you want to sell things on your website, then e-commerce functionality is of paramount importance. WordPress doesn't offer e-commerce in its core offering. WooCommerce, which is a free core plugin with paid plugins of its own, is the most common e-commerce solution for WordPress. North Commerce, which is a $499 one-time fee, is a new and promising alternative. Webflow, on the other hand, offers e-commerce in its core offering. Can the e-commerce of each integrate with PayPal? Again, not in core WordPress. WooCommerce has a free PayPal integration. Of course, transaction fees apply. Webflow has an integration with PayPal in its core offering. Again, of course, with all these, transaction fees apply. You might want to integrate with Stripe. WordPress can't do it in core. WordPress is a free, WooCommerce rather, has a free Stripe integration where transaction fees apply. Webflow can do it in core. WordPress doesn't integrate with Square Payment Gateway in its core. WooCommerce has a free integration. Webflow also doesn't do it in its core, but it is available through the premium add-on Foxy.io, where pricing starts at $25 a month plus 20 cents per transaction after the first 100 transactions. In WordPress, if you want to take payments through Authorize.net, WooCommerce has an Authorize.net transaction, $79 a year, and transaction fees apply. Webflow, again, doesn't do it in its core. It is available through Foxy.io. If you want to integrate with Google Pay, Payments, which is a free add-on for WooCommerce, can enable this. In Webflow, you can do it in core because Google Pay payments can be made through Webflow's Stripe integration. Similar story if you want to integrate with Apple Pay. In WooCommerce, you can do Woo Payments, which is free for WooCommerce. And in Webflow, Apple Pay payments can be made through Webflow's Stripe integration. Amazon Pay, similar story. It's available in WooCommerce via Amazon Pay for WooCommerce, which is free. In Webflow, if you want to do it, it's available through the premium add-on Foxy.io. Now, moving on to sales tax. Can you calculate sales tax? In WooCommerce, it's available through WooCommerce Tax, which is a free add-on. In Webflow, it's available right in its core offering. Webflow calculates sales tax and VAT for the United States, Canada, the European Union, and Australia, and their sub-regions, which are often different, say in the U.S. on a state-by-state or county-by-county basis. Webflow plans to add more regions in the future. If you want to collect sales tax, in WordPress, you can take the payment through WooCommerce, but there isn't reporting options. In Webflow, there is sales tax collection in core, where Webflow can collect the sales tax and VAT for the regions I just mentioned. It is your responsibility, of course, to file and pay the taxes. Moving on to shipping. Can you calculate UPS and USPS cost and labels? WooCommerce offers WooCommerce shipping, which is free. In Webflow, you can't do the calculations and labels in its core offering. It is available through the premium service Shippo, which is free for up to 30 labels a month, $19 a month for up to 10,000 labels a month. You might want to do digital downloads. It's available in WooCommerce Core, although if you're only selling digital downloads and have no plans to sell physical items, you might choose Easy Digital Downloads, which is $199 a year, as an alternative to WooCommerce. In Webflow, it's available in Core. If you are selling and downloading a lot of things, you might not want to do it on your own server. You might want to use something like Amazon S3. WooCommerce has an $89 a year add-on, Amazon S3 storage for WooCommerce. Webflow, it's not available on Core. It is available through the premium Onlizer service, where plans start at $19 a month. If you want to manage your inventory, it's not available in Core. In WordPress, it is available in WooCommerce. Webflow's e-commerce option has it in Core. You might want to offer subscriptions. WordPress can't do this in core. In WooCommerce, it's available via WooCommerce subscriptions, which is $279 a year. If you're only selling subscriptions to digital downloads and not physical items, you might choose Easy Digital Downloads, which is $199 a year instead. Webflow offers it in its core offering. Now, when e-commerce is a core part of what you do, you often want to have analytics to track how things are going. Google Analytics will track this through Google Analytics events, and if you're using WooCommerce, you would be looking at Google Analytics Pro for WooCommerce, which is $79 a year. Webflow offers it in core. You might want to track Facebook if you're doing Facebook marketing. There's a free Facebook for WooCommerce add-on which offers this. Webflow offers it in core. Now, if you want to do bookings and reservations for in-person or online booking of time slots, it's available in WooCommerce bookings, which is $249 a year. Webflow doesn't have it in core. It is available through third-party services like Flow Bookings, whose pricing is not public, and booking for Webflow from Common Ninja, where plans start at free. If you want to offer paid memberships, WooCommerce has a WooCommerce memberships add-on, which is $199 a year. Webflow, it's a really interesting one. This one used to be available in core through user accounts, but that feature is being removed this year. New sites already cannot set up subscriptions through user accounts in core, and on existing sites, this functionality will stop working on January 29th, 2026. Webflow has set up migration paths with third-party services Outseta and MemberStack. Can you do complex discounts? In WooCommerce, if you're going to do that, you probably want something like product dynamic pricing and discounts for WooCommerce, which is $99 a year. Webflow offers basic discounts in its core e-commerce offering. More complex discounts are available through the premium add-on Foxy.io, where pricing starts at $25 a month plus 20 cents per transaction after the first 100 transactions. In some especially more traditional contexts, you might want to have the ability to offer PDF invoices. In WooCommerce, you can do this in PDF invoices and packing slips for WooCommerce, which is a free add-on. In Webflow, it's not available in core, and it's kind of a complicated workaround. You can do it through a multi-step workaround, like connecting to something like Invoice Ninja, which has plans to start at free, via Zapier, which also has plans to start at free. Now, if you're targeting your e-commerce internationally, you might want the ability for your international customers to switch currencies and have the option to choose to display currency in your native currency or in theirs. And WooCommerce has this available in the Currency Switcher for WooCommerce add-on, which is $99 a year. In Webflow, there's partial support in core because Webflow now allows you to display pricing in your user's native currencies. But this is not a currency switcher. And some customers will want that. Suppose, for instance, a tourist or foreign exchange student who's temporarily in another country wants to set up a recurring transaction in the currency of their homeland. True currency switching is available through the premium add-on Foxy.io. No matter where you are in the world, it's best practice to build an accessible website, and by that I mean a website that anybody can use, even if they have visual, hearing, or other impairments. How do WordPress and Webflow stack up in their accessibility offerings? Out of the box, what do their default settings look like for compliance with the default worldwide accessibility standard, which is the WCAG 2.2 AA standard? In WordPress, there are accessible defaults in core. Accessibility in the ecosystem is more hit and miss. There are some tools that have really focused on it, like Gravity Forms, Bricks Builder, and Etch, and others that are a bit more problematic. In Webflow, out of the box, they at least make it possible. Their builder creates clean semantic code and offers some basic audit tools. They also care enough about accessibility to offer a top-level landing page highlighting their accessibility features and tools, and an accessibility checklist summarizing WCAG guidelines highlighting how and where to achieve compliance in Webflow. Now, do WordPress and Webflow offer tools to help you achieve full WCAG 2.2 AA compliance on complex landing pages. WordPress not really in core because it would be rather challenging to build the most complex landing pages in core without substantial custom development. Most elements in Bricks Builder lend themselves to building a fully WCAG 2.2 AA compliant complex landing page. Webflow, yes, in core, and if you see the pages referenced in the previous answer for more details. Are there built-in accessibility prompts in the editor for WCAG 2.2 AA compliance fails? Not in core WordPress, this can be achieved through Equalize Digital's Accessibility Checker, which has a free version with a $229 a year pro version. Webflow, the answer is partially. There are accessibility auditing tools built into the editor covering some of the most commonly failed features. How about built-in accessibility scanning or audits for compliance? Not in core WordPress, again, this can be achieved through Equalize Digital's Accessibility Checker, which has a free version and a pro version. Webflow, the answer is partially. There are accessibility auditing tools built into the editor covering some of the most commonly failed features. Moving on to privacy settings. Can you generate privacy policies? In WordPress, yes, limited, although you're going to have to do a lot of things by hand if you're using WordPress's core offerings. Compliance, on the other hand, which is €59 a year, builds more comprehensive privacy policies. Webflow doesn't have a privacy policy generator in its core offering, and Zuso, which starts at $84 a year, offers a GDPR CCPA compliant privacy policy generator. Termageddon, which is $119 a year, can be used with Webflow or WordPress. Are they GDPR or CCPA compliant? GDPR is the compliance laws governing the European Union, CCPA covering the U.S. state of California. WordPress isn't compliant in core, and if I were to phrase this another way, WordPress core does not enable ways to make an entire WordPress site, including its themes and plugins, GDPR and CCPA compliant. Compliance enables more comprehensive compliance with these and several other privacy laws around the world. Webflow is the GDPR and CCPA compliant data processor itself, but it doesn't offer features helping individual websites achieve their own compliance in its core offering. And Zuso, which starts at $84 a year, helps websites achieve GDPR and CCPA compliance in Webflow. Part of privacy and consent is cookie consent, which is not available in WordPress core. There are plenty of cookie consent plugins for WordPress. Compliance is one of the best because of how it enables compliance with many other privacy-related laws. In Webflow, again, not in core, a tool called FinSuite offers a GDPR-compliant cookie consent solution for Webflow with plans starting at $10 a year. What if your native language is something other than English, or your website serves non-English speaking users? Let's start with the admin experience. Webflow's site editor is only available in English. WordPress has a clear edge for admin editing in other languages, with its editor available in dozens of languages, including full support for English, Mandarin Chinese, Spanish, French, Bengali, Portuguese, and Russian, and partial support for the rest of the top 10 most widely spoken languages in the world: Hindi, Modern Standard Arabic, and Urdu. Do WordPress and Webflow come with out-of-the-box features to build multilingual websites? WordPress, not in core, you have to use an extension. There are several good plugins for this, including WPML, which is €99 a year. In Webflow, it's sort of included in core. Webflow offers Webflow localization, which is a service directly from them that they support themselves, but there is an additional fee beyond the Webflow base fee for the services of this plugin, and that's $9 per language per month for small sites in up to 3 languages, $29 per language per month for mid-sized sites in up to 10 languages, and pricing hidden for larger sites or more languages. Now, the best case scenario, if you're serving international audiences, is still that you have human translators. That's still the gold standard, a professional human translator. But it's not always possible. Can you translate the entire site automatically through AI? In WordPress, not in core, WPML offers this with additional fees for the AI translation. In Webflow, it's included in Webflow localization using Weglot, Linguis, Linguana, and several other options. Now, can you translate the entire site automatically through ChatGPT specifically? Its native sounding translation is something that some sites particularly seek. In WordPress, you can't do it in core. WPML recently added this feature. In Webflow, it's not available. Now, once you have multilingual site enabled, you want to enable your users to switch between the languages, and sometimes you want the ability to stylize that language switcher. WPML offers this, and in Webflow, it's included in Webflow localization. Almost all website creators want their websites to be found, and that's where SEO or search engine optimization comes in. Following the best practices for Google and other search engines to best understand your site so that they can direct the people who want to see your site to your site. Let's compare WordPress and Webflow on a number of commonly desired SEO features. In both WordPress and Webflow, you can generate sitemaps in core. Can you add a meta title and description telling search engines more of what your page is about? Not in WordPress, but this feature is available through a number of plugins like Yoast, Rank Math, and SEO Press, where the free versions work for all three. Webflow, on the other hand, offers this in core. Can you mark up schema for structured data for things like recipe or job postings? In WordPress, you can't do this in core. It is available, though, through Rank Math, where you'd use the Pro version, which, last I checked, was $95.88 per year and the yearly plan. Webflow, on the other hand, you can do this in core. You might want built-in basic SEO audit tools, such as for missing or poorly structured data. WordPress doesn't offer this in core, Rank Math Pro does. In Webflow, it's available in core on a limited basis. Webflow's built-in audit tool can scan landing pages for basic fields like alt text, heading order, or non-descriptive links. But it does not scan for more complex issues, and as I understand, has less or no coverage for content pages and CMS collection items, which is its equivalent to WordPress's custom post types. Now, what if you want built-in advanced SEO audit tools like keyword optimization, readability, or analysis of search intent? WordPress doesn't offer this in core. You can get it within the admin through the Ahrefs SEO plugin, which has some features for free, more for $99 a month. Ahrefs is an external service, but they offer that plugin as an integration to pull that data into your admin for you. In Webflow, you can't do it in core, but it is available through Letterdrop, whose pricing is not public, or Semflow, with plans starting at $14 a month. Now, you might want to check success of your efforts, and one of the ways to do that is checking your Google rankings. There are plenty of services, Moz, Dragonmetrics, SEMrush, Ahrefs, where you can do that in an external website that can check content from any content management system. But can you get that right in your admin? In WordPress, you can't do it in core. It is available, though, within the admin in the Ahrefs SEO plugin. In Webflow, it's not available in core. Users of Ahrefs and similar tools can track Google rankings, but would need to do so in the admin of a site like Ahrefs, Moz, or Dragonmetrics, instead of in their site's admin. Let's compare backup options, starting with full site, off-site backups. It can be really handy, and it's really best practice to have a backup of your site somewhere other than your main server, so that in the event of a catastrophic failure of your main server, which I have had happen before, you have something to fall back on. In WordPress, there isn't a full site, off-site backup offering in core, but you can access this through several external services, Updraft Plus, $70 a year, or VaultPress, which is $119.40 a year. Webflow doesn't offer this in core. It has backups built in, but only to Webflow's own servers, not to offsite storage. Taking this offsite backups an idea a step further, can you do full site offsite backups to your storage? Something like Dropbox, Google Drive, or Amazon S3. Because Wordpress is to Wordpress's storage. In WordPress, not available in Core, but it is available through Updraft Plus, which is $70 a year. In Webflow, it's not available. There is a manual workaround, which allows exporting site content as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and CSV files, putting that in a zip folder, and manually uploading it to your own storage. Can you do incremental backups, where you only back up what's changed? In WordPress, not in Core. You can do it through Updraft Plus or Wordpress. In Webflow, that's just not available. Webflow comes with full site backups of each restore point, not incremental backups. Can you do a one-click full site restore from backup? Not in Core WordPress. You can do this through Wordpress. On the other hand, Webflow, it's easy. Yes, you can do it in Core. Now, let's drill down into that a little further and take a look at a one-click full site incremental restore from backup, which is to say you're only restoring what broke. Did something in your database break? You're only restoring the database. Did something in a plugin or theme break? You're only restoring that. It's not available in Core WordPress. Wordpress does offer this at $119.40 a year. In Webflow, that's just not possible, since Webflow backups are full site only. If something breaks, you have to restore everything, at which point you're losing the progress made since your last backup point in everything, not just the area that broke. What if you want to offer courses through your website? You might call this course building, or more technically, learning management systems. WordPress does not offer a course builder in its core offering. One of the best learning and management system options for WordPress is LearnDash, which is $199 a year. Webflow doesn't offer this in Core. Webflow used to offer a tool called Webflow Memberships. They renamed it to Webflow User Accounts, but most recently they have announced that they are removing this tool and that any sites still using that feature on January 29th, 2026 will have that portion of their functionality stop working. So, Webflow users who want to offer courses will probably need to assemble a collection of tools like MemberStack, where plans start at $300 a year, or Outseta, where plans start at $444 a year for member account management. Now, it's a little more complicated than that because that just handles the member portion of it. You might need to integrate those tools with Webflow CMS via Zapier to manage course availability to new members. You might need to integrate videos and quizzes manually through third-party tools. And if you want to track user progress, you might need to use something like JetBoost, where plans start at $228 a year. Looking at a few details here in a little more depth, building quizzes. You can do that through LearnDash. In Webflow, not in Core, there are plenty of quiz building tools available for Webflow, but they would have to be integrated into a custom solution with custom development. Now, if you want to gamify, add leaderboards and points, you can do that through LearnDash. It's just not available in Webflow. There are several different ways you can release lessons in a course. If you want to have a scheduled release or drip of lessons based on days since the user started a course, you can do that through WordPress. It's not easy in Webflow. Workarounds may be possible through Zapier connecting Webflow with a membership software tool. Another way you might want to release lessons is based on the date of the calendar, a lesson that everybody takes all at the same time, instead of taking at their own pace or based on when they started. LearnDash can also do that. Not in Core Webflow. Again, you might be able to find a workaround through Zapier, connecting with a membership software tool. Can you do paid courses? Yes, through LearnDash. In Webflow, you can connect several tools together, the tools I was talking about a couple minutes ago, through custom development to offer paid courses. LearnDash can enable you to do multilingual courses in WordPress. In Webflow, not in Core, things tend to get more complicated the more tools you're trying to tie together, but it may be possible to do a workaround through integrating the tools I mentioned above alongside a multilingual translation tool. It can really help when you're offering courses to have analytics to identify struggling learners so that you can more proactively help them. In LearnDash, you can add on the Pro Panel extension, $99 a year. and Webflow is not available without custom development. Now, once you've identified a struggling learner or a learner is being proactive and wanting to reach out to you, can you have two-way communication with students for coaching? In LearnDash, you can add on the Notes extension, which is $49 a year, to offer that functionality. In Webflow, it's not available without custom development. When it comes to optimizing your site's performance, there is a clear difference between how WordPress and Webflow approach this. WordPress offers a few features in core, but to get most performance optimizations, you'll have to work with a third-party offering. Webflow's core offerings and performance are really strong. So let's go feature by feature. Lazy loading images, WordPress and Webflow both offer it in core. Code minification, to make your CSS and JavaScript files smaller. It's not available on WordPress core. If you want something like that, you're going to have to work with a tool like WP Rocket with plans starting at $59 a year. Webflow has it in core. Can you easily integrate with a CDN or content delivery network? Not in WordPress core, but you can do that through WP Rocket. Webflow enables it in core. One way to measure how your website is doing in performance is in its core web vitals. That's a metric Google offers, measuring several different ways of how well your website performs. No plugin or service will produce excellent core web vitals by itself. You need to follow best practices in creating and optimizing your content, but the right technical optimizations will give you a much better head start in core web vitals compliance. WordPress doesn't have much in the way of core web vitals compliance in core. You're going to look at WP Rocket for that. Webflow's clean code and other performance optimizations give users a head start toward passing core web vitals thresholds. But Webflow doesn't offer core web vitals focused auditing tools to highlight what needs to be done. As far as caching options, WordPress doesn't have much in core. You might have that available through your host, and you can also work with WP Rocket for caching options. Webflow offers it in core. You want to optimize your site for largest contentful paint. That's the largest thing that appears in the first look, the first thing the user sees in your website, the largest element. You want that to load as fast as possible. That's one of the key core web vitals metrics. In WordPress, it's not available in core. It is available through WP Rocket. Webflow offers it in core. Now, often handled at the web host level is something like gzip or Brotli compression that's making files smaller so that they download to the user faster and then are unpacked on the user's end. Not available in core WordPress, WP Rocket handles it. And if you don't have WP Rocket, it's often handled by your web host. In Webflow, it's not available. Visual regression is the term for a really handy feature. This involves before and after visual snapshots taken of a website, before and after core or plugin updates to detect unwanted or unintentional changes. In WordPress, this isn't available in core. A few hosts, including WP Engine and Flywheel, include this with their hosting. Otherwise, you'd be taking a look at a tool like Visual Regression Tests, which is $90 a year. In Webflow, it's not available in core. Webflow users who want visual regression will often work outside of the admin with a third-party service. Now, just detecting that there's a change is one step of the process. What if you had a visual regression that could automatically roll back your changes if something unintended changed? Again, this isn't available on WordPress core. There are some hosts, including WP Engine and Flywheel, who include this with hosting. Otherwise, you'd be looking at something like visual regression tests. In Webflow, it's not in core, and as far as I can tell, any service I've found for Webflow, you'd have to roll back changes manually if something broke. Let's compare WordPress and Webflow on their security features, starting with two-factor authentication for user login. It's not available in core in WordPress. For something like that, you're probably going to want to use a tool like WordFence, which is $149 a year. In Webflow, it's available in core. Moving on to vulnerability and malware scanning, looking for something that's vulnerable in your code or malware that a bad actor has installed on your website. That's not available in WordPress core. For something like that, again, you're going to turn to WordFence. Webflow has limited scanning. They run internal code and application vulnerability scanning, but this is not user facing, so users do not have the ability directly through Webflow to scan their own sites for vulnerabilities. Users will often use a third-party tool like Securi. You might want a firewall for real-time detection of cross-site scripting attacks and other threats. If you want something like that, again, you're going to turn to WordFence, and for WordPress, Webflow has that in core. Now, can you blacklist all IPs except approved IPs from login? WordFence can do that. Webflow, not in core. It can be accessed through a third-party workaround for Mini Orange, pricing not public. I will say, you only want to do this if you're working from a stable IP, which often isn't available for home connections. You definitely want a stable IP to do this, or you could potentially lock yourself out of your site long term. Now, can you restrict country blocks of IPs from login? If, say, you have a high percentage of cyber attacks from a certain particular foreign country, whichever country might that be, can you block that whole country? Not necessarily from the public-facing side of your site, although that's also an option, but at least anybody in that country from logging in. WordFence can do this. In Webflow, not in core, it can be accessed through integrating with Cloudflare or through a third-party workaround from Mini Orange. In some industries, you have to follow specialized compliance laws. Now, when we're comparing WordPress and Webflow here, this is kind of an apples to oranges comparison, since WordPress is software that can be run on thousands of different hosts, while Webflow's services include hosting. So if Webflow's hosting services do not cover a particular kind of compliance, you just can't do that kind of compliance within Webflow. On the other hand, if one particular WordPress host does not offer a particular sort of compliance, it's quite easy to move to another host who does. If you're in e-commerce, the first kind of compliance you're likely to be looking at is PCI compliance for credit card and other financial information security. And in WordPress, that's totally dependent on the host. Many WordPress hosts offer PCI compliant WordPress hosting. Webflow, out of the box, offers PCI compliant hosting. GDPR compliance has to do with compliance with the European Union's privacy-related laws. In WordPress, that's completely dependent on the host. There are a number of hosts out there who offer GDPR compliant hosting plans. Webflow is somewhere between largely and completely GDPR compliant. The main challenge for some EU customers, especially those in Germany, who seems to have some of the strictest laws, is that Webflow websites are all hosted in the United States. There isn't an option to choose between US-based and EU-based hosting, which again tends to be a problem in Germany in particular. Moving on to some of the more stringent types of compliance, HIPAA compliance has to do with hosting of medical information of medical patients. In WordPress, that's dependent on the host. Almost all hosts are not HIPAA compliant, but this exists. HIPAA Vault, for instance, offers HIPAA compliant WordPress hosting. In Webflow, it's not available. Webflow just doesn't do HIPAA compliance. If you need something HIPAA compliant, you pretty much have to go with WordPress or a third party. FERPA compliance has to do with student academic information. That would be in high schools, middle and elementary schools, and colleges, universities. In WordPress, that's dependent on the host. Most hosts haven't considered at any length whether they are FERPA compliant, but some are. And in particular, since HIPAA is a more stringent and challenging threshold to meet, there is a pretty good possibility, in my experience, I'm not a lawyer, don't take this as legal advice, but there is a pretty decent possibility that a host that is HIPAA compliant, like HIPAA Vault, would also be FERPA compliant. Webflow doesn't appear to offer FERPA compliant hosting. It's not mentioned anywhere in their compliance offerings. There's a chance that any website you build spends the entire lifetime of that website in one content management system and never has a need or occasion to move to another. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you need to move from one content management system to another. How hard is it? And so we call that lock-in. How much does the system lock you in? What kind of ability do you have to export to formats that several other content management systems can import? WordPress has good import and export functionality built right into its core. Now, Webflow allows exporting and importing content into and from CSV files. This allows some speed boost over a manual copy and paste method, but it is far more limited than the import and export options that some other CMS tools offer. Webflow also allows exporting a site's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You could then theoretically host that on a server configured to load static websites, but from that point moving forward, you'd have to update that code manually. Other than manual code export, Webflow does not support importing or exporting templates, layouts, or dynamic content relationships. And so that's more focused on the export side. Looking at the import side, can you import from formats that several other content management systems can export? WordPress, yes, you can do this in Core. Webflow, pretty limited, see above. From the lock-in standpoint, WordPress, I would say, has a clear edge. WordPress and Webflow both have strong offerings in the area of features that developers look for. Let's drill down on a few of those. One of which is the ability to access CMS features via API. In WordPress, yeah, you can do that through the REST API in Core. Also in Webflow in Core, the API allows you to create, read, update, or delete CMS collections and items within them. Many developers like to develop locally on their own home computer and then push updates live. In WordPress, there isn't a local development environment option built right into Core. However, there is a free tool from WP Engine called Local WP that a number of developers really like for this purpose. In Webflow, you just can't do this because Webflow is a cloud-based tool. That's what it is. Can you integrate with a headless front end? In WordPress, not fully in Core. You can use the REST API, but it has limitations. Developers who build headless front ends will often end up using WP GraphQL, which is a free service. Webflow has partial support in Core. Webflow allows content to be accessed through the API, but doesn't decouple that content from the presentation layer, which is a standard feature of the true headless website builders. How well do Webflow or WordPress enable scalability for massive traffic spikes? In WordPress, there isn't great scalability in Core. There has to be a considerable amount of caching and other optimizations at the plugin and hosting level to enable this. In Webflow, there's at least partial support for good scalability. Webflow's infrastructure can handle moderate traffic spikes. If a website on a basic CMS or business plan exceeds its bandwidth for a month, Webflow allows this. It's a 1-month grace period. But if the website exceeds its bandwidth limits for 2 consecutive months, it's automatically upgraded to a higher plan. I've seen accounts of users who have reported being unexpectedly upgraded from a business plan, $468 a year, to an enterprise plan, thousands of dollars a year, with minimal time to rebuild in a different platform or find ways to fund that rather large spike in costs. Now, another form of scalability is scalability for size. Not so much traffic, but amount of content on your site. WordPress doesn't have great scalability for massive websites in Core. Its database starts to slow the site down dramatically in sites that have millions of posts, pages, or custom post types. Custom development work will usually be required to set up database sharding. Webflow's enterprise option is built to handle websites with 100,000 items, which are pages, posts, custom post types, or store items. Websites larger than this would likely need something that isn't Webflow, a dedicated enterprise headless or custom solution. What kind of community is available around WordPress and Webflow? There's a number of different ways of measuring this. One of these is the number and availability of third-party add-ons. When somebody sees fit to base, in many cases, a small, sometimes medium-sized or large business around support for a content management system, that's a vote as to the reliability and size and adoption of that content management system. WordPress has 59,000 plugins or add-ons in its official directory, plus hundreds of premium plugins that aren't listed there. Webflow has over 300 apps in its official directory, but that number only tells part of the story, since when you look use case by use case and everything we've gone through in this video, there are high quality apps available for many of the things you need. When there is a high quality app available, it might be a plus instead of a minus that you only had to filter through 300 apps and not 60,000 to find it. Especially when you're learning a tool, but even on an ongoing basis for ongoing improvement in that tool, it can really help to find YouTube channels with consistent how-to content. WordPress has an excellent educational community on YouTube. Official brand channels include Elementor, Elegant Themes, Powering Divi, and WordPress. Those are three of the largest. And then there are quite a few independent creators. I'll give them a shout out, but if you want to see links to the channels, you can pause the video when I mention them, or I link in the notes here to a blog post version that links to all these channels as well as all these other resources we've been discussing. So, looking at some of the independent creators for WordPress, you have Ferdy, WP Beginner, Tyler Moore, WP Crafter, WP Tuts, Jamie WP, Web Squadron, and a smaller one, but one that has a really devoted following, Kevin Geary. Taking a look at the official and unofficial resources for Webflow, Webflow's official YouTube channel is roughly double the size of WordPress's. They have 212,000 subscribers and 757 videos. Webflow also has a really strong community of independent creators on YouTube. Channels include Flux Academy, that's probably the best known Webflow training channel, with almost 1 million subscribers. But then you also have channels like Peyton Clark Smith, Arnaud Ross, Timothy Ricks, Finn Sweet, Pixel Geek, WebDev4You, and Nikolai Bain. What about up-to-date detailed official documentation? For WordPress, the WordPress official documentation is fairly extensive and detailed. However, it's not equally up-to-date and equally detailed in all areas, and in some cases it's somewhat technically oriented, more developer-oriented than beginner-friendly. On the other hand, Webflow's users consider Webflow University to be one of its greatest strengths. Now, if you get stuck, can you get direct support from the official team behind the tool? Not in WordPress's case, yes, for Webflow. What's the learning curve like for WordPress versus Webflow? What's the onboarding process like? It is fairly easy to onboard onto core WordPress. Some hosts have it pre-installed, and the admin user interface is fairly easy to learn. But for users who need advanced features, it can take a long time to learn all the leading tools in the ecosystem and to develop reasons to prefer one set of tools to another. Webflow is among the easiest to learn professional website building tools. Their investment in training through Webflow University helps, and their intentional curation of apps helps users identify the right tools for their use case. How easy is it for a beginner to find the best options for each of these features? In WordPress, I'd say it's pretty hard. I've been working with WordPress virtually every day for 19 years, and I was probably more than a decade in before I was really comfortable understanding all the major players in the ecosystem and having solid reasons to prefer one over the other. It takes time to learn any ecosystem, but I would say that Webflow has among the best paths to mastery of any content management system. Webflow offers an official Webflow versus WordPress comparison. WordPress doesn't offer an official comparison on its official website. So in conclusion, is WordPress or Webflow better for you? It depends on who you are and what you need. Let's compare it for 10 use types. Are you a beginner who needs ease of use and a clearly marked pathway to key features? WordPress and Webflow are both fairly beginner-friendly. Your decision would probably come down to whether you prefer with WordPress, an open-source platform where you own your website and its data, but the learning curve to mastery is higher, versus with Webflow, a hosted software-as-a-service solution that contains everything you need for a basic site and a more clear learning curve to growing into more advanced features. Let's compare costs. WordPress example tools and costs would include WordPress Core, which is free, Yoast or Rank Math, which are both free for SEO, and a small managed hosting plan like $300 a year at Rocket.net. Your total cost would be $300 a year. For a basic website, Webflow example tools and costs would be Webflow Basic, $168 a year that would contain all features needed for most basic websites. Now let's say you want to move a step up from there. Let's say you want to build a small brochure business website that needs basic functionality and affordability. I would say WordPress and Webflow are equally good options here. Are you a small e-commerce site that needs to sell physical items? Webflow has a clear edge and ease of use, but WordPress offers greater customizability for advanced and unusual cases. Let's say you're a content publisher, something like a blog or a news website. Here, WordPress and Webflow are both excellent options. WordPress is, at its core, designed for blogs and news, so it has a small edge with features like built-in content approval workflows. If you want to become an educational site with courses or learning management, WordPress plus LearnDash has a clear edge here. For multilingual sites, WordPress has an edge on the back end, giving you the ability to manage your content in many native languages. Webflow, on the other hand, has an advantage on the front end, where tools to present content in multiple languages are built right in, where WordPress needs an additional plugin. Are you a marketer who needs a no-code, highly customizable, drag-and-drop visual page builder and form builder? Here, I'd say WordPress plus Bricks and Webflow are two of the best options out there. Are you a controversial website? WordPress has a clear edge. It's an open source based tool where you own your data and choose your hosting. For closed source hosted platforms like Webflow, Shopify, and Squarespace, a single entity can make a decision which you can't appeal to end your website and force you to begin website development from scratch on a different platform. Are you in a highly regulated industry like HIPAA, PCI DSS, or FERPA? WordPress has a clear advantage here. If all you need is PCI compliance, Webflow is probably actually easier because it offers PCI compliant financial transactions right in the tool. However, Webflow doesn't support HIPAA or FERPA compliant hosting, leaving medical and educational organizations that need this with no real choice but to go with WordPress or a third-party alternative. Moving up in complexity onto an enterprise website. For websites with up to 100,000 posts, pages, custom post types, and store items, WordPress and Webflow are both excellent options, but Webflow taps out at about that point, while WordPress, with some custom development work, is able to scale to power websites which are orders of magnitude larger. A different kind of complexity is agencies, where you might be managing, let's say, 100 small or medium business clients. WordPress and Webflow are the top two content and management systems used by US-based web design agencies, and that's for good reason. WordPress is the best agency option if you care more about owning your own data, virtually unlimited extensibility, and the ability to do practically any feature you can imagine. Webflow is the best agency option if you care about learning curves, both your own and your clients, and having your tool and your hosting unified and with unified support. Before I conclude, I wanted to mention that this research is also available in blog post format. One of the advantages of that is that in the blog post format, I've linked to all the tools and services discussed here. I've included the link to this blog post in the YouTube description area. Moving on to some final thoughts. I really like Webflow. If I ever moved out of the open source space, at this point, I think it's almost certain I would personally go with Webflow. That said, I have built or prepared project proposals for several websites that Webflow just couldn't handle. Some of these were due to feature limitations, but at least one was a website that was on track for around 200,000 items that would have cost many thousands of dollars to host with Webflow, but which hums along perfectly fine on a $100 a month plan with Rocket.net. That said, Webflow is definitely an option to keep watching. It has a dedicated user base, and it has one of the best ecosystems out there. It's currently number 7 on W3 Tech's list of most used content management systems, but I think it will be top 5 soon. It stands a real chance to be number 2. And if WordPress is ever unseated at the top spot, at least in the next decade or so, it would be my guess at this point that Webflow would be the tool that did it.